Morning guys, welcome to another day. Alright, so yesterday we were talking about monopolies. We were talking about Amazon and how they have a large control over a lot of things that we spend money on, and questioning, is that right? And today I want you to think a little bit more about that. Is it right? Is it ethical? Is it best for society? All the things that encompass something that's a monopoly or close to a monopoly. Should any one company have that much control? And the answer isn't as clear as you might think, and not everyone agrees that monopolies are evil. Now, by the early 20th century, early 1900s, we were making laws that prevented monopolies from happening. But this is something where at the beginning of big industry, we saw a change where monopolies were happening in the steel industry, the oil industry, the leather industry. I mean, all kinds of industries, anything that could be an industry, they were developing monopolies, and it was dangerous and people felt threatened for lots of reasons. Okay, so yesterday we talked about John D. Rockefeller, and we talked about his rise in oil. We're going to talk today more about that, and specifically we're focusing on his trust, the trust that he developed. All right, remember, in the business of competition, you need to get ahead by either doing it cheaper, faster, or better. Those are your three principles of competition. The more that you own, the more that you control. As Rockefeller, he went into the oil industry. He said, I'm not going to be an oil driller, I'm going to be an oil refiner, because that's where everybody has to come through. If he controlled that, he would have a monopoly on controlling the market. Now, he might not own every single oil part of the oil industry, but he would be having control over the parts that he didn't own. So he bought oil refineries, and he would buy oil refineries in every single one in the area that, let's say, in one county, Pennsylvania. So he's owning every single refinery in that area. If he moves into another area, he's trying to gain control over every single refinery in that area. By doing that, his customers can only buy from him, and he has control over what goes in and out. By doing that, he was able to lower his costs, right? He didn't have to have a price war. By doing that, we call that horizontal integration. So Carnegie owned everything about an industry from top to bottom, which is vertical industry. The steel industry, he was owning the iron ore mines, the coal mines, the ferries, the rail lines, the steel plants, everything all top to bottom. That's vertical integration. But horizontal integration is what Carnegie did. And he said that I'm going to own the oil refineries, the one bottleneck stopping point where everybody who drills for oil has to send their money, effectively, through me. That was how he controlled the industry. Horizontal integration. By doing that, he didn't have to worry about people in the middle getting a cut of the profits for transportation or supplies. He bought so much he could demand just about any price he wanted. So he could claim, I need this much money, and people would have to give him that price for the things that he needed if he had to buy something. And if somebody wanted to buy something from him, he could tell them what price they had to pay, and they really didn't have any alternative. He could also get in the way of his competition really well. In one case, he couldn't buy the other refinery, but he bought all of the barrel makings in the area, all the hoops and staves that you make a barrel out of. So if you have a bunch of oil that you've pulled out of the ground, but you don't have a container to put it in, you can't sell it. Those other refineries couldn't distribute any of their oil. In fact, they couldn't even process any more of their oil because there weren't any more barrels to put the oil in. He literally stopped them by buying out their other supplies. He saw this, his goal was not just to be mean. He wasn't trying to be greedy. Well, it depends on how you define greed. But he was doing it because he was looking for efficiency. The more you control, the more power you have on that industry, and the more that you can do with that industry. You can go in this direction or that direction. You can try something new. You can develop new machinery. You can cut costs. You can make it more efficient. But if you're constantly competing with somebody else who's trying to do the same thing, that kind of gets in your way. He wanted to simplify it and make it streamlined. He thought of it like a law of nature, that eventually you want to go for ultimate efficiency, and efficiency meant not having extra competition. So that was Rockefeller's cheaper method. Could he also do it faster? Well, speed is one of those things with competition. He was limiting the railroad lines. Basically, everybody had to ship on a railroad that he approved of. He was shipping so much on those railroad lines that even his competition had to ship on them. And because of his rebate program, he was getting paid back for everything he shipped on there. And his competition was effectively paying him for the privilege of shipping on the same railroad lines. So that was a way that he was profiting off of it. He was controlling the industry. Maybe not faster if you were both shipping on the same rail line, but at least he had equalized it. So that was not a competitive factor. Did he make better quality oil? Well, apparently he did. Apparently he used all of this efficiency and cutting of costs that he was able to buy the appropriate equipment and buy the processes that would make good quality motor oil, good quality kerosene, good quality, whatever the oil was that he was producing, it was going to be a high quality. Because if his competitors were not able to beat him on speed and weren't able to beat him on price, but they were able to beat him on quality, then he's going to start risking losing some of that market share, and he didn't want to do that. Rockefeller did several tactics in his competition. First is buy the competition. He tried to buy everybody that he could, like literally buy their business. And if he couldn't, he would try to crush them with the railroad rebates, that it was going to be more expensive for them to ship their product than it was for him. So that was something that would push out his competition. In some cases it did, in some cases it pushed them into the point of, okay, well, Mr. Rockefeller, I will sell my business to you. And then finally we come to big business trust. We have to define the term trust here, because trust means you believe somebody's going to take care of you. In the traditional sense of trust, at the time that this was developed, trust meant that it was an organization, something set up, some protocol for somebody if they needed to be taken care of. So maybe you have a child whose parents have died, you set up a trust. It's some type of arrangement where there's a person and a fund of money involved ready to make decisions for that child and pay out money to take care of that child, handle expenses, handle important decisions. In this case, Rockefeller set up a trust for the oil industry, not just his oil, but for everybody in the industry. And what he did was this. He would go up to a business owner who was a competition, and at this point in the game, most of the people in the industry had gotten large. They were not small-time players, just like just a fellow out in the field drilling for oil. These were big-time businesses, but they were significant enough competition that he wanted to control them. Control was, he sets up this trust and he says, all right, I have a proposition for you. I will give you a guarantee that you will still make a profit. In fact, you'll probably make more of a profit than you've ever made before. But in order to do that, you have to give control of your company to me. Me and my board of directors of the Standard Oil Trust. There are about 9 people on this board of directors that are going to make decisions for your company. They'll make decisions about price, they'll make decisions about distribution, they'll make decisions about processes, and in that your business will stay healthy, you will make more profit, and will make a better, more efficient industry. Now, if you chose to go with that, he actually paid out. It worked. You were part of a larger organization that everybody was agreeing on a price, everybody was making a better profit. It worked really well for the oil industry in as far as terms of efficiency and cutting costs. There wasn't price wars where one company was trying to sell something at a lower price than somebody else, and somebody else had a different price than somebody else, and they had a different system. No, it was all very smooth. If you didn't buy into the oil trust, then they could kill you with a price war. Literally, the oil trust was so big and organized that they could drop the price of oil below their cost for a little while until you couldn't sell any of your oil because they were always selling it for cheaper than you could. Very, very strong business tactics. Again, I'm trying to avoid the good or bad moral reasoning here. You can come up with that perhaps in a later essay, but right now I want you to think about it. Was this good or was this bad? Because I want you to make the decision, what was the benefit? Because Rockefeller didn't see that he was doing anything evil, he thought that he was doing something that was good for the industry. And at the end of the day, the kerosene, the motor oil, the things that he sold were actually cheaper for the public than they had ever been before. He actually lowered the price for things. He wasn't price gouging, trying to make the biggest profit off of the people that were buying it. He was actually just cutting out the extra expenses that came along the way. Page 2 notes. Okay, so bring us up to the present day. We skipped some things in between, but you have the general idea that I need you to know for this year. John D. Rockefeller set up the Standard Oil Trust, which was a trust where he organized all the major oil companies of the day to let him make decisions, make his board of directors make decisions for their companies, and in so doing developed a monopoly that they controlled the board, they controlled whatever happened in the oil industry. And eventually the federal government gets involved and said, no, you can't do that. Fast forward to 2020. Actually, 2016. The Rockefeller family, which as you might imagine, after Rockefeller died and he had become America's first billionaire, his family went on to become staying rich and richer, and the Rockefeller family fund has a lot of money still, and they invest in various things. And they invest in things that they think are going to make more money. They look to the future. They look in what is going to grow. In 2016, on their website, and I'm putting a link in the show notes, they put a letter out saying that the oil industry, the fossil fuel industry, it has clearly become a problem for the planet with climate change and the effect on the climate, and the actions of ExxonMobil, who have shown that they knew about this and were intentionally trying to be deceptive and self-interested in their profits. The Rockefeller Family Fund is divested themselves. That means they separated themselves. They stopped investing in fossil fuels. Now, you can say that they did it because they believe in the climate, that the value of the climate, and they want to preserve the environment for future generations, which is a good thing, right? We want that. But there is also a trend that oil investments are bad money for the future. It's not wise because we're not running out of oil. There are people who said, oh, we're running out of oil, we're going to run out of oil by 2050 or something like that. We're not running out of oil. We will probably never run out of oil because oil is in lots of places around the world, but we have run out of the cheap and easy to get oil. The oil that used to seep out of the ground in Pennsylvania, the oil that you could, like there was some oil, watch one of the videos from last week, or from yesterday's links, that shows people setting up a drill for oil with like a foot pump. They're like kicking it on the ground like they're pumping up a bicycle tire, and they're pretty easy to get to the oil that was in the ground. All that easy oil is gone. We don't know of any more of the easy oil. The next level of oil, we're trying to get it out of sand, out of shale, out of rock. It's already mixed in with the rock, and we have to find a way to cook it out of that rock so that it can be extracted. Very expensive, very time consuming, costs a lot more money than, I don't know, putting up a solar panel and absorbing the heat of the sun. There's that. There's also the problem that some of it is really hard to get to. It might be underneath the bottom of the ocean. So getting it out there and getting it transported back, we have a lot more costs involved than were before. So the end of the oil industry is upon us, and the Rockefeller family recognized that and separated them from that. So, your goals for today. Log into Schoology, get your attendance taken, keep working on your industrial age packet, and I'm going to post a question about what you think about monopolies, and if you can give me some thoughts of do you think they're good or bad. We're not writing an essay about that at this point, but I do want to hear what your thoughts are. If you can back that up with some argument would be great. Somebody pointed out that in the industrial age packet there is a question about the invention of the elevator, and I recognize, unfortunately, that your book doesn't have much about that, and I love that story. I'm going to tell you more about the invention of the elevator tomorrow. Have a great day, guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.